Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Rita. I'm a writer and academic and I love books, and I never thought I would ever do anything like this ever, but I just figured that during these crazy, scary times while all of us are on the same boat and stuck at home not really knowing what to do with our time, I figured that I would make some short videos where I would introduce you to either some books that I've loved for a really long time or some books that I've just found out about and I would like to share with you, and to just give you some tips on books that you might want to read and you might find interesting, and who knows, I might help you find your next favorite book. So, without any further ado, I will introduce you to some of my favorite books of all time, and this is my top 5 favorite books of absolute all time. So, number 5 is Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. So you might have come across Rebecca if you've watched Alfred Hitchcock's movie, and it's just the most amazing book. A friend of mine teases me to this day because she was staying with me when I came across this book for the first time, and she says that every time she went out of the room for even 30 seconds just to grab something, she said that I would just pick it up and just start reading it immediately, because it's such an incredible page turner that I just couldn't put it down. I just had to find out what was going to happen next. And it's just an amazing story. So it follows the main character, whose name we actually never find out about. So it says at some point, another character says that she has a very interesting name, but we never actually know what it is. So we know her as, throughout the story, as Mrs. De Winter, because De Winter is the name of the considerably older man that she gets married to. And it follows her life as she moves into his house in Cornwall and she becomes acquainted with the house and the people there. And she's quite a naive young woman, so she hasn't had a lot of experience of the world and she doesn't really know what she's doing. And then once she arrives at the house, she starts getting to know the servants and finds out about his first wife, Rebecca. And I don't want to spoil anything, I won't reveal anything, but just she soon starts realizing that there's something quite mysterious about the house and about that first wife. And as a student of literature, it's just a very interesting book in the sense that it is a very good example as to how a writer can manipulate the reader in some way. And by that I mean that you get various perspectives and they're all limited in the sense of what they reveal to you. So you have the perspective of the main character, and as I said, she's quite naive, so she perceives things in a certain way. Then you have the perspective of the husband, that very much tells his side of things. And then you have the perspective of the other people in the house, so the servants and friends who liked Rebecca. And so it's just really interesting in terms of you figuring out who to sympathize with and who to believe. And it's really interesting how you may sympathize and follow the view of certain characters, whether or not that's what you should do. So it's an amazing, amazing book. As I said, it's a huge page turner, and I would recommend this book to literally anyone. So, back. The fourth one is a book that I've been obsessed with since the first time I came across it, and it's The Bad Beginning which is part of the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. And from the moment I picked it up, I just had to read the whole series, and it's amazing. So it's written for children and young people, and so it's incredibly easy to read. It has these amazing illustrations, as you can see, and you could read this in a couple of hours sitting on your couch. But despite the fact that it's very much targeted at a young audience, it's the kind of book that would also appeal to adults, because it just has so many universal themes like family and friendship, and it's just an amazing, amazing book. So if you haven't come across it, you might have come across it with the Jim Carrey movie or the TV series on Netflix, and they're both amazing. And basically the story follows the lives of the Baudelaire siblings as they find out that their parents have died in a fire that has destroyed their entire house. So from being in a very happy, very comfortable situation, the Baudelaires find themselves with very different expectations, and they are placed under the custody of someone that they have never met before, Count Olaf, the villain of the piece. And so it's about the Baudelaires sticking together as they go through all the various challenges that are thrown at them. And it's just beautifully written. Obviously the theme is quite dark, but the book itself is very funny at several moments, and it's just beautifully written, and I would highly, highly recommend it to everyone. The third one is a book that I've loved for a really, really long time, and I feel like that will be the case with a lot of people. It's Louisa Alcott's Little Women, and I have this edition that I found buried in a shop in Bath once, and it just has the most beautiful illustrations, as you can see. And I absolutely love this story. So this book is very topical since the new movie has just come out, or you might have also seen the 90s movie, which is also amazing. And Little Women basically tells the story of the March sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, and they're all very different people with very different priorities in life, and they are going through a very difficult situation. Their father is at war, and they used to be a very comfortable, financially comfortable family, but then they lost quite a lot of money, and so they are having to revise their expectations, and they have to live with less than what they were used to. And I think it's a wonderful book to read at times like these, because it reminds you of what you do have. So one of the lessons behind it, if you will, is to focus on the things you do have and be grateful for those, rather than constantly pining for the things that you do not have. And it's just the most amazing book. I don't think it's too preachy in the way in which it conveys its values. Some people from my book club might disagree with me. I very recently suggested this book as part of my book club, and I don't think it was very popular, but I would recommend it because I think it's wonderful, and I think the characters are just amazing. And my personal favorite is Jo, and everyone has their favorite, so I would highly recommend that you pick it up. If you liked the movie, then you will definitely like the book. Number 2 is a book that has been my absolute favorite for a really long time. until number one kind of beat it for me. It's Peter Pan, and of course you will have come across the story of Peter Pan, whether it was in the Disney movie or Hook, for example. But I would highly recommend that you go back to the original if you've read it before, or that you become acquainted with it if you've never read it, because it's just a wonderful book. And much like A Series of Unfortunate Events, even though it's targeted at children, it also contains many universal themes that will appeal to everyone. And I have this very heavy, very beautiful edition. So it's the annotated edition, which basically means that it has about 200 pages of just pieces of criticism on the book and bits about the context in which it was written, which makes it a really, really amazing edition. It also has all of these amazing illustrations from the original book. So it's a lovely edition. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite stories of all time. I remember coming to London for the first time when I was 9 years old and just thinking it was the most magical place in the world, and visiting Hyde Park was like being in a fairyland. So I've been in love with the story for a really long time, and I would recommend that you read it, whether it is in this beautiful edition or something a little bit more portable, but definitely give it a try. And last but not least, my absolute favorite book of all time, which will come as no surprise to anyone who knows that I have a PhD in Jane Austen. It's Pride and Prejudice, and you will see how much I love it from the absolutely ridiculous number of sticky notes that I have in it. This is basically the result of spending 4 years reading and rereading Pride and Prejudice over and over again, and I never tire of it. It's a very easy book to read, even though a lot of people brag that they started reading it for the first time when they were 12, for example, and that they could understand everything, and you will be able to read it, although I would also recommend going back to it later, because so much of the social historical context that Jane Austen is referencing, so many of the points that she's trying to make across are just something that you are going to miss at that age. So I would really advise that you go back to it. But as an introduction to the classics, for example, so if you would like to try kind of more classic English literature, then you could do no better than this. It's a very easy book to read. Jane Austen is quite different from her contemporaries in the sense that she has very short chapters. So each chapter is only about 2, maximum 3 pages. At the beginning of every single chapter, something happens. So you are introduced to a new character, or there's conflict happening, or there's something else. They go to a different place, for example. So it's a really easy book to read. I would call it a page turner. I think it really makes you want to keep reading it, and it's just amazing. You may have come across it in the Keira Knightley 2005 movie, or the amazing 1995 BBC adaptation. But if you don't know, it follows the lives of the 5 Bennet sisters as they are starting to come to terms with the fact that their father isn't getting any younger, and that when he dies, because the estate in which they live is entailed, basically it means that they will lose the property and the money that comes with it, and that instead of going to any of the 5 sisters in the family, it will instead go to their male cousin, who already has quite a bit of money because patriarchy. And it's about them having to process the fact that this is happening, that they at any moment they could lose the house in which they have lived their entire lives, and that they could become pretty much destitute the moment their father dies. And it's about them trying to navigate the marriage market in very different ways and trying to make the right decisions throughout. And it's just a wonderful book. And the main character, Elizabeth, is possibly the best character of all time. She is incredibly funny and outspoken and just an amazing role model for young women at any period, and I would highly, highly recommend it. You may know how it ends, but I would advise you to read it anyway, because there is so much to this book, and I would highly recommend that you pick it up and you give it a try. And it may be for you, it may not be for you, but just try it out. Okay, and that's my top 5 of all time. So let me know in the comments below what you thought about them. Let me know whether it's good or bad. I don't care. I'm just curious to know how you find them. And if you would like to get reminders for when I upload more content, then you can subscribe below. And if you have any suggestions of books that you would like me to review or any videos that you would like me to do, then feel free to pop them in the comments as well. And I'll see you guys later.